Here's the case here. This was a Platinum Hits re-release of the game. Platinum Hits was a program where games would get re-released on Xbox 360 for a cheaper price than they originally released for. Bestseller games, that sort of thing. So obviously, basically every Call of Duty game got this treatment. Here you can see the front of the case. There's a soldier at the front, and in the background, there's stuff going on. Looking at the back, here's what it looks like overall. The most intense and cinematic experience ever, says Team Xbox. Game of the Year, said by AOL, IGN, GameSpy, and MSNBC. Best-selling Game of the Year and multiple Game of the Year winner fight as a member of U.S. forces and British spec ops in global hotspots to eliminate a well-armed, ruthless force of international separatists. Take the fight online, where persistent stats unlock dozens of customizable weapons and abilities, like calling in attack helicopters and fighter jets to dominate your opponents. One of the absolute best games to grace any platform to date, says Game Informer. And one last time, here's the overall view. Looking at the pictures. Go ahead and look at the inside of the case. If I can get it open. There's the disc. The front of the manual is the same as the cover. And we'll take a look at that now. You'll have to forgive me for my nose running, but this is just a proof of concept video, and therefore I don't really care that much right now. Otherwise I would have blown my nose. Seizure warning right there. Tells you to read the Xbox 360 manual. We're not going to do that. Maybe I should buy me one of those. Just take a look at it for video. Here we have the controls for the game. And over here, it tells you the single player menu, it says, is actually just the main menu. You can even see it has the multiplayer option within that menu. Explanation of the save system. It's just an automatic checkpoint system. Here's the single player HUD explanation. I used to like how they would try and get as many elements on screen as possible. So you can see there's a grenade near the player. The player is also taking damage, so there's a number 5 right there. That's an indicator for the direction the damage came from. This was not a common concept, I remember, at the time. I think it was the first time I remember seeing it. This is very handy because obviously when you're playing a game and you get shot, you don't know where you got shot from necessarily. At the time, people weren't really playing with headphones and whatnot. They were playing on, their TV speakers, so it was hard to tell what direction gunfire was coming from. But I did find when I was playing this game today in 2024 with headphones, I was able to easily tell the direction of gunfire and enemy footsteps. And there's the explanation of all those icons there on screen. More of that. Health system. This probably did need a little bit of an explanation at the time, because medkits were pretty common in first-person shooters. This game kind of, it got a lot of flack over the years, Call of Duty in general, for being such a big game and influencing a lot of other shooters to go ahead and adopt this same health system. Now, regenerating health isn't new to first-person shooters. It was in Halo before this, although it was in the form of a shield, but it made a little more sense in a sci-fi shooter to have a shield as opposed to being just a regular soldier that regenerated health on the battlefield somehow. Regardless, I think it was effective at keeping you in the action of the game. It kept the pace high. You weren't having to hunt around for med kits or anything. So I think it had its place in an arcade shooter like this. Explanation of the start screen is really what that is. So when you pause the screen, it tells you your mission objective. Realistically speaking, this was useless because you got realistically speaking, that was kind of useless because you just got a waypoint that told you where to go. And these mission objectives didn't really give you a sense of direction. It just kind of told you where the mission was having you go. And this game is kind of on rails. You just go from point A to B. So, yeah, this was kind of useless. It's not like an RPG game where you needed to know your quests or whatever. Seeing an explanation of some of the things on that screen down there. Here's a multiplayer HUD explanation, which is mostly the same. The only difference is I think there's a mini map in multiplayer. Let me go back. Look at that single player menu again. No, there is no mini map in the single player. I believe when we get to World at War, that will change. There actually is a single player mini map, but actually the single player levels are a little bit larger in that game, so it's not quite as necessary in Call of Duty 4. But the next game, World at War, yeah, that is a little bit more necessary. Going back to this page, at the top, connecting to your ISP, that's a little interesting. Doesn't really help any, actually. Down here, there's an explanation of Xbox Live, basically an advertisement for it. I find it interesting that at the bottom, it describes split screen in the Xbox Live section, but you don't actually need Xbox Live for that. In fact, System Link doesn't require Xbox Live, and family settings on the Xbox 360, you don't need Xbox Live for that. The Xbox Live section is like 3/4 not Xbox Live stuff. I always found this page interesting. So a lot of game manuals would have a note section. And I buy a lot of pre-owned games that have been passed around many, many times. I can look at them and I see like there's been 2 or 3 GameStop stickers on them. Several people have owned them. They've probably been loaned to friends or given away or whatever. And the notes section is always completely empty. Basically, all you could do with this was write down cheat codes, which Call of Duty 4 didn't have any. There were cheats in the game, but not through codes. You could probably also write down important item information, like location of an item you find useful in an RPG, but it's Call of Duty 4. On the side here, software license agreement, yada, yada, yada. Kind of boring stuff, nothing really too interesting in here. And then on the back, there's all this. This is mostly customer support. There was a part here I found interesting. No, please do not contact customer support for hints/code/cheats. Only technical issues. Now, I find that interesting for this reason. Yeah, Ace Combat 5. So this is a PlayStation 2 game, and I only really find that note interesting because if we go to the back of the Ace Combat 5 manual, we'll actually see there was a number and an address and a website you could go to get help with the game. Ever get stuck and just need that extra edge to beat the level? Having problems getting your game working properly? Now you can get one-on-one help from Namco using your web browser. Now, obviously, this was published by a different company, but I found it interesting that you used to be able to actually get help with your games through customer support. And maybe that was more necessary at the time because this was a PlayStation 2 game. A lot of people might have been playing Ace Combat 5 as maybe their first video game. Maybe it was more necessary at the time, but by the time you got around to the 7th generation, who was needing help with that or Activision just didn't want to pay money for that sort of thing. Probably that one. So let's go ahead. This is hard with one hand. Go ahead and get this in the 360. And yeah, I got my PlayStation 2 on top of my 360. Probably not the best idea because it is covering an event there, but yeah, I ain't got the space. Well, sounds like a 360.